Welcome to the Simpit. I'm your host Sean Cole, and today we are checking out the new Thrustmaster EVO 32R leather racing wheel. And this is a very important steering wheel in the sim racing market because this is the second wheel that is now immediately compatible with the T818 direct drive wheelbase. So we recently reviewed the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel rim, which goes for $249. And as much as it was Ferrari branded and looks super awesome, it was sort of a no frills kind of rim. It had a couple of indicator lights, but no fancy display, no LEDs, and sort of a minimalistic design, but it was a one-to-one replica. In this case, the 32R, 32 because it's 32 centimeters or 320 millimeters, which measures in at 12.6 inches, and it is a round leather wheel, which I'm going to get to the importance of that throughout this review here, but it is a great looking wheel rim, and this is sort of a new step. They call it the EVO, and I think the reason for it is this is actually a replaceable wheel. So you could take this wheel rim off, and if you have something with a 50 millimeter bolt pattern, it's going to bolt directly onto this. And Thrustmaster has alluded to the fact that they're going to have other wheel rims available for this, making this a hub design, much like what we've seen from Fanatic. So the 32R EVO 32R leather wheel rim goes for $299, and with that you get the new quick release as well as the old style quick release. So if you want to use this wheel rim on a T300 or anything, you bolt this on instead of that quick release and you're up and running there. But this is directly mountable onto the T818. So Thrustmaster is accepting pre-orders as of today, but the wheels start shipping on May 2nd. So what do you get for your $299? As I mentioned, it's a 320 millimeter round leather wrapped wheel. It's got double stitching, which looks kind of cool. They're calling it yellow kryptonite stitching, and it definitely looks cool. And it's a very smooth leather, and it's going to be pretty long lasting. You're not going to have to wear gloves because it's not Alcantara or suede. Another nice feature about this wheel rim is it's got these double curved paddle shifters. They've got a nice bend to them, so you feel a lip there when your fingers are on them, and they're curved and rather long, and they are adjustable, so you can move them inward or outward. And then they use dual magnets, so they are magnetic paddle shifters and have a very good feel to them. On the front, we have 9 buttons, 3 here, 3 more there, 2 there, 1 there. We have 4 rotary encoders. Each of them turn left and right and have a press-in function. And then we have a D-pad as well, giving us a total of 25 mappable functions. And what's kind of cool or unique about this is these little modules here, they actually move up and down about 1/4 of an inch, so you can loosen that screw and slide them up or down. So when we do get to changing wheel rims, you might want to change that spacing. The other thing I kind of like is the way they have this first button here is like sort of a longer button, and then these are raised above it with a shorter button. So just a little variety and a little difference in look in the whole thing. And the buttons have a good feel. There's a good strong amount of pressure going in and a good tactile click. Same thing with the encoders. There's a real distinct detent for each press or each turn of the dial, and the same thing with the press-in function. Not only are you going to hear it, but you're going to feel it with your hand even when wearing headphones. Now at first glance you don't see any kind of LED bar, and that's because Thrustmaster has gone a completely different route, and it was something I actually kind of wondered about before driving. So the LEDs are actually on top of the hub, which makes sense because again they're going for that hub design, meaning I could replace this wheel. So for example, if I was going to bolt on this Momo, which isn't proper, they're going to make wheel rims for this, but if I were to bolt this on, the LED strip remain. It doesn't have to worry about the size of the wheel rim when it comes to showing. So you've got indicator flags on the left here. This first button here is actually indicator flags. So if you get like the blue flag for being passed, you're going to see that there. On the right hand side, the far right one is actually for pit speed indicator. And then you have a 5-digit display, and then you have 2 different options on how it illuminates, whether it's going left to right or center out or center in, those kind of things. And then you can also adjust the brightness on the fly with the wheel as well. And I think the last thing I really would mention before we get down to driving is it does come with some extra stickers. So you can see like this right here, they have the limit, which makes total sense. This one here says engine, which isn't my favorite because it's not really a sim button I've ever mapped. Usually I'll do something like engine mapping on a dial, not necessarily a button. But we do have radio, flash, and wipers, which are all sim context. And then you have a variety of different numbers to choose from if you want to change the way or the look of the buttons on the wheel rim. So before you can drive this, when you pull it out of the box, you'll see the wheel rim doesn't come with one of the quick release adapters. You get 2 adapters, 1 wheel rim, so you actually do have to install this adapter, which is really easy. There's a plug that plugs directly into it, and 4 bolts later, you're directly mounted onto the wheel. So just like our review of the 488 GT3, it uses the exact same quick release. So you have the same kind of spacing from the base to the end of the wheel rim or where your hands go, and there isn't that extra adapter anymore. It's just slip it in and then close that cool quick release that Thrustmaster now has on the T818 base. So with that, let's see how this thing actually operates out on track. We're going to try a few different conditions. With it being a round wheel, it's going to work great for rally racing, oval racing, any kind of generic racing. I mean, I'll probably say this a few times, but if I could only use 1 wheel rim, if I only had 1 wheel rim, I really want it to be a round wheel about this size. It's really perfect in that respect. So let's get it on the rig and see how it performs on track. When it comes down to driving with the EVO 32 racing wheel, it starts out with the T818 base and that new quick release. So it is direct. It is as simple as putting the wheel on and clamping it down. It's one of the easiest, coolest quick releases out there. But of course, it's still plagued by the exact same problem that we saw with the 488 rim, which is it is made of plastic. It's just not as strong as an NRG or a QR1 quick release. And there is just a little bit of flex in the system than one of those. So, I mean, that's something that you're going to have to get over. However, it's only when comparing them to those rock solid options. When I compare this to yesteryear, it is a pretty strong setup. And when driving, I don't notice any of that flex whatsoever. At 10 Newton meters, it's strong enough that it should last forever. It feels strong enough to handle the job. All right, so let's get out on track. I mean, you already see those flashing lights. So that is my pit limiter flashing. And then we have the on pit lane indicator. So those will both turn off automatically. I have auto pit limiter just for the purposes of this test right here. But you'll see those are going to turn off automatically, and you know we can go to full power. Let's start off with the comfort of the wheel. I love the round rim. We've talked about that. It's real universal. I'm driving an LMP car right now, and even though I see a Formula style rim in the car, this feels comfortable. I could definitely drive this comfortably and not even think twice about it. So the leather, I'm in gloves right now. You know, I could take the gloves off with this wheel. We're not using Alcantara. We're not using suede. We are on leather, and it's a nice, smooth, soft leather. And I got to admit, it makes me kind of miss. It's been a while since I've used a smooth leather wheel like this, and it's just so soft. It almost has an elegance to it in feel, and this double stitching down here is gorgeous, and it feels good on the hands when you get there, even though I usually am sitting here in the 9 and 3 position when I'm driving. The rim, it is round in its shape, but it's a little flattened out. So when I'm in bare hands, I do feel a slight ridge on the front of the rim all the way around and another one on the back. So it's a little ovalized, not perfectly round. And I definitely feel that. So it gives it a little bit more of a profile in the palm of your hand on the sides. And I like that. But you could even say it's not sharp, but there is a semi-pointy ridge on the front that I notice more when I'm barehanded than when I was in gloves. I didn't even notice that. You almost would have thought it was just a round rim. So the size and the comfort of the wheel is really nice. We mentioned it's only a 1,300 gram wheel, so it is a very lightweight rim. And I think there's even a little bit of flex in it if you really torque on it. Not that you would do that while driving. So we already talked about the RPM lights in terms of the pit lane indicator and the flag, which I like. I really like the way these lights are on top. I like the way they're not glaring right in my face, but they're very prominent. It's actually a really clever design that I can't recall anyone else doing it quite like that. I do like the way they work, and I like having those flag indicators. It definitely has become handy, and I'm seeing that on more and more wheels across the industry, which is kind of cool. Instead of needing to rely on a display or on a button box that has lights that might not be directly in your vision while driving, these are right there, and they're subtle and noticeable at the same time. Does that make any sense whatsoever? I'm not sure. Now the buttons, they are all plastic cap buttons. There's no metal feel to any of them, including the encoders. So there is a certain lower end feel to it in that respect when comparing it to like a GSI or some of these expensive wheels. No backlighting on the buttons, and that's definitely some of the ways that they kept the cost down to this $299 price point. But the buttons do feel good. They don't feel gamey. They feel professional. I'm not sure that they actually feel automotive, but they feel professional. So when I'm using these main buttons, the top three here that I can access really easily while driving, they have a good click feel. So I obviously can't hear them right now in headphones, but I can tell you the moment that they got confirmation because of that strong click, and I definitely like that in a racing wheel for sure. The layout of these top three is really nice, real easy. So that gives me 6 really easy to access without doing much. I mean, I might have to move my hand up a little bit because I have smaller hands, but I don't have to move a whole lot. And I actually have them in the up position. We can move those modules lower if we wanted to. Down here, we have those encoders, 2 on each side. And then we actually have extra 3 buttons, 2 on the right and 1 on the left, plus the D-pad. But looking at the encoders, and we have 4. Like I mentioned, the detent is noticeable. So again, I can't hear them over my headphones right now, but I can definitely feel the click every time I move them or when I press them in. And so I like the feel of that, and it's a good quality. So despite being plastic, I wouldn't ask for any more there. They feel real good in that respect. And I think that takes us to the paddle shifters. There are a few things that I love, and I am going to use the word love when it comes to these paddle shifters, actually. I love the curved shape. So a lot of wheels have gone to very small paddle shifters or weird shapes or carbon fiber, which might have this like flatness and edge to them. I love the massaged feel. So not only are they curved to match the wheel rim real nicely, but they also have this nice bevel. There's this ridge. I can grip them with the fingertips laid right into them, and they feel just really natural on my fingers. And you can move them in and out, and this is also something that Thrustmaster's alluded to. We might find changeable. So if you bought a different shaped rim that would fit this hub design that they've now gone with in this Evo design, that you would actually be able to get paddle shifters matched to that new wheel. So I'm real optimistic for that as well as an upgradable feature, but I really do love the way these fit the wheel, match the wheel, and feel in my fingers. And those double magnets give a good amount of click, and I can hear it when I'm not in the headphones. You can probably hear it as I shift, and I can definitely feel it getting a good confirmation. There's a fair amount of range, so they're not super short throw, and I wouldn't call them long throw either. I would say they feel natural for a 32 centimeter round wheel. So overall, $299 isn't breaking the bank for a steering wheel in today's market. It's actually one of the least expensive steering wheels that you can buy as an add-on for any wheelbase out there. Obviously, this is going to be exclusive to the Thrustmaster ecosystem, but what I do like as an add-on wheel at $299, it's very affordable. No, there isn't a display, and if they added a display to this one, it would just make it that much more expensive, and I'm sure we're going to see one of those kind of options later. Maybe even some backlit buttons, because at this point, this is sort of the new horizon for Thrustmaster. We had the Formula style rim, now we have a round rim in a short amount of time since they got this all going, and this could be the beginning of a lot of options and a lot of variety for the T818 bases, and maybe that maintained backward compatibility with the quick release option. And then who knows, maybe someday we'll even see like a T818 Pro with like a metal version of this quick release. I would love to see that. If they built all that out of a metal, it would completely change what is a great feeling base and a great operating quick release and just make it that much more robust. But again, while driving, I don't notice that. Not once while driving have I thought about any of the flex that has in comparison to like the NRG style quick release that I'm using on my other wheel over there. So it is plenty strong enough to get the job done. It's only when we do the torture test that it even becomes anything. So the comfort of the wheel is great. The functionality of the wheel is great. The price of the wheel is really good and solid, and it just takes the T818 to a whole new level. So really happy with this wheel, and if I was going to just have one for this T818, it would probably be this one. You know, and the other thing I did mention is different wheel shapes, different types of wheels for different disciplines, and you know, this being a really good universal wheel. The other thing is I did a lot of rally racing with this, and it worked out so nice because when I got the T818, my only options when it came to like rally racing or oval racing was to either use that new Ferrari wheel, which just feels weird. I mean, it just feels weird using a Formula rim to rally race in particular. Oval race is really odd feeling as well. You can probably get away with anything else with it. But for those disciplines, I needed this round wheel, and I needed it really bad. And it has totally changed it because now, again, I'm on that proper quick release directly on the 818 instead of trying to use one of their older wheels with the double adapter setup going, which I just wasn't a fan of since the 818 came out. And now I get to utilize this incredible, I love the force feedback, and I know I'm not here to review that. We covered that in our 818 review. But it's great force feedback on this base. It's one of my favorites when it comes to the 10 Newton meter range wheelbase. They just do something really great with their interpretation. And now having two wheel rims, being able to switch from that Ferrari wheel rim to this 32 round wheel is just exactly what I needed, and just takes this combination to one of my favorites out there. So real impressed, real happy, and can't wait to see the future wheel rims. Not only complete wheel rims, but the way they're going to utilize this hub and what wheel rims will be made available for this hub as well. I know we cover a whole lot in a short amount of time here on the show, so I know it's easy to miss some of the important details. So I like to break things down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line on the EVO 32R leather racing wheel, starting off with the good, and that being, it is a good price. New quick release system, 12-inch round wheel, replaceable wheel hub concept, looks cool, comfortable, leather, very soft. RPM gauge and flag indicators. Good feeling shifters. Backward compatible. Plenty of buttons. And now on to the not so good. Starting off with the new quick release is made of plastic. Slight flex under the heaviest of loads. And now on to the bottom line. We talk about this on the show all the time. Different wheel shapes, having a formula rim for formula scenarios, having a round wheel for this, and having all these wheel rims. Many people like having 2, 3, 4, 5 wheel rims at their selection. However, when it really comes down to it, if you asked my advice and you could only have one wheel rim, you just don't have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of space to keep a bunch of wheels, I can only have one wheel rim. What do I go with? My personal preference is a medium large size round wheel. And the reason for it is it's the wheel that is just going to work in the most situations and feel comfortable. So I mentioned rally racing. This is a really good size, really good shaped wheel for rally racing. Oval racing, if you're into NASCAR, roundy round stuff, this is a really good size and a really good shape and a good feel for oval racing. And then I did a bunch of driving in open wheelers and GT cars, and it worked just fine, even though in some of the fast Formula One cars, I'd probably prefer a formula rim. It would just feel more natural. But this, if you could only use one wheel, is going to be great. Trying to use a formula rim when you're doing other disciplines just feels wrong. So if you could only have one, it's got to be a round wheel like this one. And that's why when the 488 wheel came out as the first wheel rim available from Thrustmaster for the T818 base, as much as I loved that wheel rim, as much as I loved its price point, what I really needed was a round rim, and now it's here. So great job on Thrustmaster for getting us the 32F leather wheel. Now, one thing I have noticed about Thrustmaster in the new world, the DD market, is that their bases tend to be a little bit more expensive than their competition, but then their wheel rims tend to be a little bit less expensive. So, for example, the T818 is a 10 Newton meter wheelbase. It goes for $649, and then with the 32F leather wheel, you're adding $299, giving you a total price of $948. Now, that does put it almost $100 more expensive than the Moza option, which would end up being 9 Newton meters, but the wheelbase is substantially less money from Moza, but then the wheel rim is actually a little bit more expensive. Same goes for SimMagic. In the case of SimMagic, the Alpha Mini base is 10 Newton meters. It's a little bit less expensive than the Thrustmaster, but the wheel rim's a little bit more, but it still ends up being a little less expensive than that combination. And then even the same goes for Fanatic, where the wheelbase itself is less expensive, but you're only getting 8 Newton meters for a closely matched wheelbase, and then the wheel rim with even a hub design is going to be a little bit more expensive. So it might allow you to get more wheel rims for your Thrustmaster setup, and we might eventually see the price of the T818 come down a little bit, because right now it's still sort of at like that release price point when a lot of those other bases have actually come down from their original pricing. So in the end, I really love this wheel rim. I love these indicator lights. I was a little iffy if I'd like them on top of the wheel rim, and in the end, I really liked the way they worked. I liked the way they displayed the information, and they weren't blowing right into my face, so they weren't too distracting, and I could leave them almost at full illumination. I enjoyed the comfort of the wheel overall. The shifters felt great. The shape of the wheel rim and the softness of this leather kind of made me forget how much I like a smooth leather wheel rim. I didn't need to use gloves if I didn't want them, and I didn't have to worry about ruining an expensive wheel rim. And I'm also really curious to see what wheel rims they make available in the future for this now hub design, the EVO 32 hub design. I guess the 32 is the wheel rim. So all in all, really good design. All in all, a very needed wheel from Thrustmaster, and overall, I enjoyed using it quite a bit. So I think I've told you everything that you needed to know. Hopefully I've answered any questions that you might have, and hopefully enjoyed watching the show. If so, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can find out when our next video comes out, and thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.